Hello, everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Beautiful Wednesday, halfway through the week. Hope you're doing well today. Excited to be with you as we start the second part of our 5 Things to Watch For series that we've been teaching through. And we just came out of watching our will. Now, one may think, okay, well, where do we go from there? All right. So we're going to look at today watching our ways. Now, one might think, well, aren't those two things the same thing? Watching our will is doing what we want, but we also have to watch what we do and how we do it. In other words, we have to watch our ways, what is produced because of our will. The product, if you will. Proverbs 16:7 is going to be kind of our base for today and maybe the next couple lessons, because a lot of it comes out of this. And this is what it says, Proverbs 16 and verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, now that's key. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies be at peace with him. Now, I'll explain that further as we get deeper into this lesson, exactly what that means. But I want to ask you this question today. This is kind of a little introduction for this next series of teaching. Do my ways, and ask yourself this question, I certainly have to ask myself this question, do my ways please God? Now, that's a big one. That's a really, really big question. Do my ways please God? We'll go back to that Scripture, when a person's ways, when a man's ways, please God, please the Lord. So we're not talking about our neighbor, our brother, our co-worker, anybody else. We're talking about God. Do we please God with the way we do things? You see, our will, we talked about watching our will, that's our attitude and maybe a stubbornness and an unwillingness to do. But our way is the product of that. What comes as a result? Do the things I do please God? Does the way I live honor God? Does what I read, does what I watch on TV, does that please God? And we're not talking about getting all legalistic. We're talking about, does it bring honor to my time? Does it bring honor to the sacrifice that He's made for me? Does it allow me to grow in my love for Him and my appreciation for what He's done for me, which allows me to be a better light, a better witness into my community, into my family? Is the way that I treat others, in particular those that I love, and maybe even those around me, does that please God? Does that show His ways to them? Or is there a disdain there? Is there an unlike there? Is there an unwillingness to see the value of another soul? Jesus, when pressed by the Pharisees to say, what is the greatest command? What is the greatest command? Again, we've talked about this multiple times in multiple lessons. And of course, they were looking for more of a prioritized list of the law. But Jesus said, the greatest command is to love God and to love one another. Here's the question. Are we doing that when we don't watch our way? If we allow our way to get in God's way, just like when our will overrides God's will, we're not pleasing Him when we do that. Because Scripture says in the book of John, chapter 15, that we please God when we bear much fruit. Well, what is that? That is producing something. And that is producing something that is worthy, something that is of value, something that has meaning, something that not only brings goodness and worth, but it brings honor to God, because that is how He created us to be. In this life, we oftentimes find ourselves and I know this to be true because I've seen it not only in life, certainly in my own, but in through the eyes of others. We're always trying to please others in some capacity. We don't typically like having other people upset with us. We kind of try to avoid conflict if we can. It just upsets our nature when it upsets our whole demeanor when somebody is not pleased with you. It can be anybody. It can be a coworker. It can be your parents. It could be your children. You know, I've experienced that. I have teenage kids at home, and they don't like me a lot of times, and it hurts my heart because you don't want that. You don't want that disharmony in your circle. We want approval. We do. That's just kind of who we are. But the problem with that in the world is oftentimes it leads to compromise. In other words, we give in to create a unity or a harmony, but knowing that what we just did wasn't right. We didn't say something when something should have been said, or we didn't do something when something should have been done. And the results of that are oftentimes something we later regret. Our ways should please God before anyone else. In other words, I'm offered an opportunity to do something, but I know that it's not right. It's a shortcut. It's a cheat. It's a whatever. But I go ahead and do it because it's going to make things easier for me, or it's going to expedite something. Does that please God? No, not at all. Because while waiting sometimes is difficult, waiting may produce a better result. You know, think about that in the simplicity of cooking a meal. If you take it out of the oven too soon, it's not done. You serve that to others, it either is not a very welcoming meal or an enjoyable meal because it's not done. Maybe it's runny, maybe it's raw. You know, maybe it makes somebody sick. But I didn't want them to have to wait any further. You know, well, we wouldn't do that. Sometimes we want to get to the top quicker, so we take a shortcut. Maybe we want to do this a little bit better, so we take a shortcut. And again, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but we do those things because the world kind of demands it. But God is saying, wait on me. I'll show you the better way to do it. I'll show you the right way to do it. That it's everlasting and that it has value. Even after you're gone, it still has value. Do our ways please God? Because the scripture says even if our ways please God, if our ways please God, then even our enemies are at peace with us. Now, what does that mean? You may not like me. You may have a problem with me. But if my ways are showing the outward evidence that I am striving to please God, then even my enemies must refrain and hold their personal opinions to themselves. I don't like that guy, but I can't really argue that what he does, he really believes with all his heart because he really does love God and he's really trying. Now, of course, we live in a world where that is not always reality in the sense of people holding back their opinion. Obviously not on platforms such as this. We see it all the time. But our goal in the process, our goal should be to show that our ways please God before anyone else. So indeed, as we look at this a little bit deeper over the next couple of lessons, we have to watch our ways. And we have to make sure that not only that they please God, but that they are of God. What do I mean by that? Who do people see when they see you? We'll talk more about that question tomorrow when we come back here and Making It Simple. God bless you, friends. Have a great day.